Rise, my apprentice.
After years of wandering the galaxy, Maul had clawed his way back from the brink of death, fueled by one driving purpose: revenge against his former master, Darth Sidious. Maul had been cast aside, replaced by a new apprentice, a Jedi whom Sidious had carefully groomed, Anakin Skywalker. Maul had learned of Skywalker during his time as a Sith Lord, but it wasn't until the Clone Wars that he truly understood the significance of the Chosen One. Maul's obsession with ending Sidious's reign grew day by day. He had nearly succeeded when he laid a trap on Mandalore, attempting to draw Skywalker to him, hoping to destroy him before Sidious could turn him. But his plan had gone awry when Ahsoka Tano appeared instead. Though she was a skilled opponent, defeating her would have done little to alter the course of events. Maul realized then that time was running out. Skywalker was on the precipice of falling to the dark side, and if Maul didn't act soon, Sidious would be unstoppable. In his frustration, Maul sought answers in the dark side, entering deep meditation. He searched for a glimpse of the future, and all he saw was fire, a fiery planet that radiated death and destruction. The vision was unclear, but Maul's experience with Sidious had given him knowledge of the Sith Lord's hidden plans and favored locations. Among these, one planet stood out in his mind: Mustafar. A world where old Sith secrets lingered and where Sidious's machinations often took place. It was here, Maul realized, that the final act of Skywalker's transformation would unfold. The question gnawed at Maul: what if he could reach Mustafar first? Could he prevent Skywalker's fall and use the Chosen One as a weapon against Sidious? Or perhaps he could destroy him before Sidious's plans came to fruition? Maul wasted no time. With Mustafar fixed in his mind, he set off for the fiery planet, leaving behind the shattered remnants of his plans on Mandalore. He knew this was his last opportunity to seize control of the future. If Anakin fell to the dark side, Sidious would reign supreme. Maul's survival and ultimate revenge depended on reaching Skywalker before his transformation was complete. As Maul traveled, his mind raced with possibilities. He had long been driven by his hatred for Sidious, but now a new thought occurred to him. What if Anakin Skywalker could be turned? Not by Sidious, but by him. What if Maul could mold the Chosen One into his apprentice, and together they could overthrow Sidious and destroy the Empire before it was fully born? Skywalker was powerful, perhaps even more powerful than Maul himself. Such a weapon under Maul's control could make him the true ruler of the galaxy. Arriving in the outer system near Mustafar, Maul began to observe. First, the Separatist leaders arrived at the planet's fortress. Maul watched from a distance, cloaked in the shadows. He had no interest in them. They were mere puppets in Sidious's grand scheme. Soon after, Anakin arrived. Maul witnessed with growing interest the ruthless efficiency with which Skywalker slaughtered the Separatists. The darkness within him had fully taken hold, but there was still a window of opportunity. Maul knew he had to act quickly. But before Maul could make his move, another presence arrived, one he knew all too well: Obi-Wan Kenobi, the man who had cut him down on Naboo, the man who had haunted his every thought since that fateful duel. Now Kenobi was here on Mustafar to confront his fallen apprentice. Maul grinned. This was the moment he had been waiting for, a chance to kill two of his greatest enemies in one fell swoop. As the two Jedi clashed in a titanic duel, Maul remained hidden, tracking their movements from a distance, following them across the lava flows on a stolen speeder. He watched with satisfaction as Kenobi and Skywalker's fight grew more desperate and brutal, culminating in Kenobi's final strike. Anakin fell, maimed and burning, near the banks of the lava. Kenobi stood above him, stricken with emotion, unable to finish his fallen apprentice. It was in this moment of weakness that Maul saw his opportunity. He crept up behind Kenobi, using the emotional turmoil and chaos to his advantage. With a quick, merciless strike, Maul drove his lightsaber through Kenobi's chest, watching as his old foe crumbled to the ground, defeated at last. But as Maul stood over the fallen Jedi, looking down at Anakin's smoldering body, a new thought entered his mind. He could leave Skywalker here to die, let the flames of Mustafar claim him, and be done with Sidious' apprentice. But a more devious plan began to form. What if Maul saved Anakin? What if instead of leaving him to die, Maul could nurse him back to life, mold him into his own apprentice, and turn him against Sidious? For a brief moment, Maul hesitated. Saving Anakin would be a risk. The Chosen One was powerful, perhaps too powerful for even Maul to control. Could he truly trust someone who had already been corrupted by Sidious? Anakin's dark power was evident and his rage uncontrollable. Maul considered killing him then and there, but the thought of using Skywalker as a tool of revenge against Sidious was too tempting. Maul glanced down at Kenobi's lifeless body and then back at the dying Anakin. The dark side whispered in his ear, urging him to act. If he left Anakin to die, Sidious would still be victorious. But if he saved him, Maul could turn the very weapon Sidious had created against him. Skywalker, as a Sith under Maul's tutelage, could become the key to everything. Maul knew he needed help. As strong as his connection to the dark side was, there were limits to his power. He could not heal the grievous wounds Anakin had suffered on Mustafar. There was only one place he could turn: the dark arts of the Night Sisters, the ancient magics of Dathomir. Maul's bond to his home planet and his mother, Mother Talzin, gave him access to powers beyond the reach of even the Sith. Maul gathered Anakin's barely living form and his wife Padme, dragging them onto his ship. He made a hasty escape from Mustafar, head into the planet of Dathomir. After departing Mustafar, Maul's ship descended upon the foreboding, mist-covered planet of Dathomir. The dark magics of the Night Sisters still pulsed through its depths, and though many of its secrets had been lost, Maul was aware of enough to serve his purposes. He brought Anakin and Padme, both on the brink of death, to the old altars, where the remnants of the Night Sisters' powers still lingered. Using what he had learned from his time on Dathomir, Maul performed an ancient ritual, calling upon the planet's dark energies to restore Anakin to his full strength, as if his brutal defeat by Obi-Wan had never occurred. Days passed. When Anakin awoke, his body was whole, his pain gone. He found Padme beside him, resting peacefully, her body healed by medical droids that Maul had carefully prepared in advance. Not long after, Padme gave birth to their children, Luke and Leia. Both parents were bewildered, uncertain of how they had survived or where they were. The strange, hostile planet they had awakened on offered no clues. Anakin could feel the dark side's presence everywhere, though it was not Sith in origin. It was something older, more primal. The couple had no answers, but from the shadows, Maul watched. Anakin, now more powerful than ever, scanned his surroundings. Something felt wrong. Even though his body had been restored, his lightsaber was missing, left behind in the fiery chaos of Mustafar. Then, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. Maul. Recognizing the former Sith, Anakin's instincts took over. His rage ignited, and without a weapon, he used the Force. Maul's throat tightened under the invisible grip of Anakin's power. Gasping for breath, Maul barely managed to utter the words that would save his life.
I saved you and your family.
Anakin hesitated, lessening his grip.
What do you mean?
He demanded, confused and still filled with fury. Maul, still struggling to speak, explained how he had arrived on Mustafar. He told Anakin of how he had watched from the shadows as Obi-Wan left him to die. How it was he, not Palpatine, who had saved Anakin, Padme, and their unborn children. Maul painted himself as a man no longer interested in the Sith or Jedi. He spoke of his desire to destroy Palpatine, the real enemy, and how Sidious had deceived Anakin into joining him under false promises.
Sidious left you to burn. He didn't care whether you lived or died. No. He only wanted your power, and he would have killed your wife and children without a second thought.
Anakin, still processing Maul's words, lowered his hand. His mind raced. He had turned to the dark side to save Padme, but in the end, it had been Maul, of all people, who had truly saved them. The betrayal of Sidious, his former master, cut deep. Doubt crept into Anakin's mind, doubt about the path he had chosen. He had sacrificed everything to save his family, but in the end, Sidious had abandoned him. Maul continued, sensing Anakin's internal conflict.
I want what you want. Revenge. Sidious must die. He destroyed my life, just as he nearly destroyed yours. Together, we can end him. We can take back our power, not as Sith, not as Jedi, but as something greater.
Anakin was silent. The desire for revenge against Sidious was overwhelming. Everything Maul said resonated with him. His manipulation, his anger at being used by Sidious. But there was also something about Maul's new perspective. He no longer seemed like the crazed Sith Anakin had once known. Maul had changed. He too had been a pawn of Sidious. And now he stood before Anakin as an ally, offering a way out, a way to kill the Emperor and free himself from his fate. Padme, still recovering but hearing the conversation, looked at Anakin with concern.
Anakin, whatever you choose, know that we have each other. We've been given a second chance, but we can't go back to the way things were.
Anakin's eyes darkened as he turned his attention back to Maul. There was no going back to the Jedi, no returning to the way things were before. Sidious had to be stopped.
Fine, we'll kill him. But once this is done, Maul, you and I will settle our differences.
Maul smiled, sensing victory.
Of course, but for now, we share a common enemy.
Together, they began to plot. With Anakin at his side, Maul believed he could finally take down Sidious. The former apprentice and the Chosen One, united by their hatred for the Emperor, would strike at the heart of the Empire. What they would become afterward, whether friends or foes, was a matter for another time. For now, the path was clear. Sidious would fall. The dark skies of Coruscant glowed with the artificial lights of the city planet as Maul's ship descended toward the heart of the Empire. Anakin and Maul stood side by side, both cloaked in shadows, their minds united by a singular purpose: the death of Emperor Palpatine. The time for subtlety had long passed. They moved with precision and power, cutting through the Imperial forces stationed at the Senate building, leaving destruction in their wake. Troopers fell to their blades, and the halls of the Empire echoed with the sounds of clashing lightsabers and dying soldiers. Anakin, fully healed and wielding the strength of both the dark side and the light, fought like a man possessed. His power surged with every strike, every block, and every movement of his body. The memories of his betrayal at Palpatine's hands fueled his rage, while the light within him kept his mind clear, his purpose unshakable. Beside him, Maul was equally relentless, his red blade a blur of death as they carved a path toward the throne room. Despite their history, Anakin had trusted Maul for this singular mission. They shared a common enemy, and for now, that was enough. They knew that Palpatine would be waiting for them, prepared to defend his throne, but together, they believed they could end his reign once and for all. Finally, they stood before the massive doors of the Emperor's chamber. The bodies of troopers lay scattered behind them, and the dark energy in the air grew thicker as they stepped closer to their final confrontation. Anakin could feel the presence of his former master beyond the doors, that same presence that had once twisted his mind and led him down a path of destruction. The doors opened slowly, revealing the shadowy figure of Emperor Palpatine seated on his throne. His hooded face was twisted in a grotesque smile as he watched them enter. His yellow eyes gleamed with malicious intent, and the dark side rippled through the room like a storm.
So it has come to this. My former apprentice returns, and you, Maul, how amusing.
Anakin said nothing, his gaze fixed solely on Palpatine, the man who had manipulated him, used him, and left him for dead. He ignited his lightsaber, its familiar hum filling the chamber. But just as Anakin was about to move forward, Maul took a step back. Without a word, he turned and began to walk away, his presence fading from the battle that was about to begin. Anakin glanced over his shoulder, surprised and confused.
What are you doing?
He called after Maul, his voice edged with disbelief. Maul didn't answer. He simply disappeared into the shadows, leaving Anakin standing alone before the Emperor. For a moment, Anakin felt a surge of betrayal. Had Maul brought him here to die? Was this all part of a larger game? But in the end, it didn't matter. Anakin's purpose was clear. Maul could abandon him, but that would not stop him from doing what he had come to do. Palpatine's laughter echoed through the chamber, low and menacing.
Foolish, isn't it, Skywalker? You've always been easy to manipulate, and now your new ally leaves you to die.
But Anakin was no longer the broken man Palpatine had left behind on Mustafar. His power, now almost fully realized, surged through him like a tidal wave, a balance between the dark and the light. He stepped forward, unshaken by Palpatine's taunts.
You think I care about Maul? You're the only one who needs to die.
Palpatine's face twisted into a snarl as he raised his hands, lightning crackling at his fingertips.
So be it, Jedi.
The battle began in an explosion of force energy as Palpatine unleashed his full power. Lightning shot from his hands, and the room crackled with dark energy. But Anakin met it head on, his lightsaber deflecting the onslaught of Sith lightning with ease. Palpatine pressed harder, his fury growing with every second, but Anakin was relentless. The power of both the light and dark sides flowed through him in perfect harmony, making him stronger than Palpatine could have ever imagined. Anakin moved like a force of nature. His lightsaber, a spare one Maul gave him, was blur of red energy as he closed the distance between himself and the Emperor. Palpatine fought back with everything he had: lightning, manipulation, and the dark side's most powerful abilities, but none of it was enough. Anakin, now more attuned to the Force than ever, was untouchable. The duel was fierce, but it was clear from the beginning that Palpatine was outmatched. For all his years of manipulation and cunning, he had never faced the true power of the Chosen One, especially one who had found balance between both the light and dark. With one final strike, Anakin disarmed Palpatine, sending the Emperor's lightsaber clattering across the floor. Palpatine, now defenseless, attempted one last desperate blast of Force lightning, but Anakin caught it in his hands, redirecting the energy back toward the Emperor. The lightning enveloped Palpatine, his body convulsing as the dark energy consumed him. With a scream of pure agony, Palpatine was finally destroyed, his body disintegrating into nothingness. The room fell silent, the dark presence that had once filled it, now gone. Anakin stood alone in the empty chamber, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Palpatine was dead. It was over. The galaxy was free. With the Emperor and the Jedi wiped out, the galaxy found itself in a state of utter disarray. The once mighty galactic empire crumbled without its leader, and the Republic, long defunct, had no clear path to restoration. Factions scrambled for control, while political leaders debated endlessly over whether to restore democracy or seize power for themselves. In the chaos, fear spread through the galaxy, and a power vacuum emerged, one that Maul was more than prepared to fill. In the Outer Rim, where lawlessness and criminal empires had long flourished, Maul began his rise. The region was familiar to him, a place where his influence had once taken root during his days as the leader of the Crimson Dawn. Now, with no Jedi to oppose him and the Emperor's iron grip released, Maul moved swiftly. His criminal organization expanded, planet by planet. At first, his methods were brutal, taking control through force and fear, but Maul quickly realized that a different approach was needed. These worlds, long oppressed by the Empire and ignored by the Republic, didn't want rulers, they wanted order. Maul offered that order. In each world he seized, Maul brought a strange, uneasy peace. Crime syndicates were crushed, Imperial remnants wiped out. But in exchange, Maul's rule brought stability. He presented himself not as a conqueror, but as a protector. The people of the Outer Rim had never known safety under the Republic or the Empire. Under Maul, there was no war, no looting, and no chaos. They were free to live their lives under his rule. And for many, this was the best deal they had ever had. Slowly, word of Maul's new order spread. The Outer Rim became his domain, and the citizens there didn't resist. They welcomed him. As Maul's power grew, he began creeping toward the core worlds. The chaos in the Senate prevented any unified response. The political leaders were too distracted, trying to maintain order in their own regions, and when they finally realized the extent of Maul's influence, it was too late. The core worlds, unprepared for a figure like Maul, found themselves with no choice but to submit. His forces were already at their gates, and the people, witnessing the stability he brought to the Outer Rim, saw him as a figure of strength. They too accepted his rule. In a matter of months, Maul had achieved what neither the Jedi nor the Sith had. He united the galaxy under his control. But this time, it wasn't through fear alone. Maul was hailed as a protector, a stabilizer in the galaxy's darkest hour. He claimed the Empire as his, but unlike Palpatine, he didn't rule from the shadows. Maul positioned himself as the rightful leader of the galaxy, the one who had brought order out of chaos. And the people, weary from years of war, accepted him. While Maul solidified his reign, Anakin Skywalker chose a different path. After the battle with Palpatine, Anakin had no desire for further conflict or power. He had fought for his family, and now that they were safe, he sought only peace. Taking Padme and their newborn twins, Luke and Leia, Anakin fled to a distant, secluded world, far from the reach of the galaxy's conflicts. On this isolated planet, Anakin found a quiet life. Here, he could raise his children without fear of the Empire, without the burden of being the chosen one, without the shadow of the dark side looming over him. He became a father, not a warrior. The power he once wielded, both light and dark, was set aside. For the first time in years, Anakin knew peace. Padme, having endured so much, found solace in this new life, and together they raised their children in a world untouched by the galaxy's turmoil. But even in seclusion, Anakin could not fully escape the events unfolding in the galaxy. He knew that Maul had taken control, that the former Sith now ruled the very empire he had once served. But for now, he was content.